How many times have you bitten your tongue, forced a smile, and tolerated what you shouldn't have? How often have you heard someone say, "It's just a joke," while anger simmers inside you? It's time to take this seriously, because you don't have to endure certain behaviors from anyone. Yes, you heard me right. No one has the right to treat you with disrespect, manipulate your emotions, or hide behind harmful jokes disguised as concern. Enough is enough. Buddhist philosophy teaches us that while we can't control how others act, we have full power over how we respond. So why keep putting up with behavior that chips away at your inner peace and dignity? Every little slight, every passive-aggressive comment you let slide is a crack in your self-respect. And let me tell you, your self-worth is not up for negotiation. So, are we going to keep drinking poison, or are we ready to set boundaries? I think you know the answer. That's why today, I'm sharing with you 10 behaviors you should never tolerate from anyone. Stick with me until the end, because the last one will completely change how you see relationships and self-respect. But first, let me share a story that perfectly illustrates the wisdom of these lessons. In a quiet village by the river, there lived a kind and generous young woman named Clara. Everyone in the community admired her willingness to help, but over time, Clara noticed that some people began to take advantage of her. A neighbor constantly asked for favors but never showed gratitude or offered help in return. A so-called friend undermined her every decision, shaking her confidence. And at work, her boss ignored her accomplishments as if she were invisible. One particularly exhausting day, weighed down by criticism and disrespect, Clara decided to take a walk in the forest. Deep in the woods, she stumbled upon a small cabin where a wise elder lived. Clara poured out her troubles, and the elder listened patiently. Then she said, "There are behaviors you should never tolerate, no matter how kind you are. Allowing people to use you as if you're just a convenience diminishes your spirit. Respect is not something to beg for. It's something you must demand." Clara, intrigued, asked for guidance. The elder continued, "Just like a tree needs space to grow, you need boundaries to thrive. If you let others prune your branches or strip your leaves, you'll eventually have nothing left. You have the power to choose what you will and won't accept." These words stayed with Clara as she returned to her village. The next day, when her neighbor asked for yet another favor, she politely but firmly refused, explaining that she deserved mutual respect. When her friend criticized her again, Clara calmly stated that those judgments no longer defined her. At work, she began standing up for her contributions. Slowly but surely, Clara felt stronger and more self-assured. And something incredible happened. Her relationships and environment began to change for the better. The moral of this story is simple. Kindness is a virtue, but so is self-assertion. Tolerating behaviors that drain your energy or undermine your dignity doesn't serve anyone. Setting boundaries and demanding respect is not selfish. It's an act of self-love and an affirmation of your worth. So, if you've ever felt that you're giving too much and getting too little in return, this video is for you. Let's dive into the first lesson together, starting with the one thing you must protect at all costs: your self-respect. 1. Disrespect. Allowing someone to undermine your dignity. Disrespect often begins subtly: a dismissive tone, an overlooked comment, or a sharp remark cloaked in humor. Over time, these small moments pile up, like drops filling a jar, until you find yourself questioning your own worth. When someone undermines your dignity through rude comments or belittling behavior, they are chipping away at the foundation of your self-respect. The real danger lies in tolerating these behaviors, as doing so sends a message, not just to the other person but to yourself, that your worth is negotiable. Buddhism teaches that self-compassion is key to living a balanced and peaceful life. When you allow others to treat you poorly, you betray this essential teaching. It's not about responding with anger or retaliating. Instead, it's about honoring your own dignity by setting boundaries. Boundaries are not acts of hostility, they are acts of love, both for yourself and for others. When you make it clear that disrespect is unacceptable, you're not only protecting yourself but also giving the other person an opportunity to reflect on their actions. Consider a simple practice. When faced with disrespect, pause and breathe. Ask yourself, is this behavior something I would tolerate from someone I deeply respect? If the answer is no, it's a sign to speak up calmly and assertively. You might say, I feel hurt by what you just said. I value mutual respect in our interactions. This doesn't escalate conflict. Instead, it communicates your values clearly. Remember, respecting yourself is the foundation of all your relationships. When you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you are not being overly sensitive or difficult. You are simply living in alignment with your intrinsic worth. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Disrespect has no place in the life of someone who seeks inner peace and harmony. 2. Emotional manipulation. Protecting your peace. Emotional manipulation can often feel like an invisible storm, eroding your peace without you even realizing it. It may come in the form of guilt trips, where someone makes you feel responsible for their happiness or failures. It might appear as passive-aggressive behavior, those subtle digs that leave you questioning your worth. Or it could be outright attempts to control your emotions, where someone uses your empathy against you to steer situations in their favor. In Buddhism, mindfulness teaches us to observe our emotions and actions without judgment, which helps us recognize manipulation for what it is. The first step to breaking free from emotional manipulation is awareness. Notice how you feel after interactions with certain people. Are you left feeling drained, confused, or burdened with emotions that don't seem to belong to you? These are clear signs of manipulation at work. Once you've identified the pattern, the next step is to reclaim your power. Manipulators thrive on control, and the antidote is clarity and firmness. For example, if someone uses guilt to make you comply with their demands, respond with compassion but firmness. I understand how you feel, but I cannot meet your expectations right now. This approach acknowledges their emotions without allowing them to override your boundaries. Buddhism also emphasizes the importance of compassion for yourself and for others. While it's essential to protect your peace, recognize that manipulative behavior often stems from the other person's insecurities or pain. You are not responsible for fixing them, but understanding their motives can help you maintain empathy without becoming their emotional puppet. The ultimate practice here is letting go, not of the relationship itself unless necessary, but of the guilt, obligation, or fear that the manipulator tries to instill in you. When you choose to stand firm in your truth, you embody the Buddhist principle of right action, acting in ways that are honest, kind, and respectful to yourself and others. Emotional manipulation has no power over someone who values their inner peace and knows how to protect it. 3. Toxic jokes and insults. Disguised as humor. Toxic jokes and insults wrapped in the guise of humor are among the most insidious forms of harm. They slide under the radar because they're often dismissed with phrases like, "I was just joking," or "Don't take it so seriously." But deep down, you know the sting of those words. Each time you laugh along or brush it off, you allow a small crack to form in your self-esteem. These comments are not harmless. They are a subtle way for others to undermine you, whether intentionally or not. In Buddhism, the principle of right speech emphasizes communication that is truthful, kind, and constructive. When someone cloaks their insults in humor, they fail to honor this principle, and tolerating such behavior pulls you away from your own path of inner peace. A joke at your expense, no matter how harmless, is a violation of respect, and enduring it teaches the other person that this behavior is acceptable. The first step in addressing this is to recognize the impact these jokes have on you. Ask yourself, how does this make me feel? If the answer is hurt, don't ignore it. The next step is to respond with calm but clear communication. For example, if someone makes a cutting remark and dismisses it as a joke, you could say, "I understand you meant that as a joke, but it felt hurtful. I'd appreciate it if we could keep things more positive." This approach not only asserts your boundary, but also gives the other person an opportunity to reflect and grow. If they dismiss your feelings or continue the behavior, it's a sign that they lack respect for you, and it may be time to reconsider their place in your life. Remember, humor should bring people closer, not tear them down. Protect your self-esteem by making it clear that respect and kindness are non-negotiable in your relationships. True peace comes from surrounding yourself with those who uplift you, not those who use humor to erode your confidence. 4. Taking advantage of your kindness. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can possess. It's a gift you offer freely to the world, and in many cases, it is met with gratitude and reciprocity. However, there are those who see kindness as an opportunity, not to reciprocate, but to take advantage. They come to you only when they need something, never offering support or even gratitude in return. Over time, this imbalance can leave you feeling drained, resentful, and undervalued. Buddhism teaches the importance of equanimity, a state of balance and fairness in all interactions. When you allow others to exploit your kindness, you disrupt this balance, not only in the relationship, but also within yourself. True compassion, a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy, includes compassion for yourself. It is not compassionate to continually pour from your cup for others while leaving it empty for yourself. Recognizing when someone is taking advantage of you is the first step toward reclaiming your balance. Pay attention to patterns. Does this person only reach out when they need help? Do they fail to show appreciation or offer support when you need it? If the answer is yes, it's time to reassess the dynamic. Setting boundaries is essential. You might say, "I'm happy to help when I can, but I need to feel that my efforts are appreciated and mutual." This statement is firm but fair, rooted in self-respect and the Buddhist value of maintaining harmony. If the person responds with guilt-tripping or resentment, it's a clear sign that their intentions were self-serving. Lastly, let go of any guilt for establishing these boundaries. Your kindness is a gift, not an obligation. By protecting it, you ensure that it remains genuine and impactful. Surround yourself with those who value your compassion and reciprocate it, creating relationships that uplift and nourish both parties. True kindness flourishes in an environment of mutual respect, not in one-sided exchanges that leave you depleted. 5. Lack of acknowledgement or appreciation. It's a quiet pain, isn't it? to give your best effort, to pour your energy, time and care into something or someone, only to have it go unnoticed. Whether it's at work, in your relationships, or within your community, the lack of acknowledgement or appreciation for your contributions can slowly chip away at your sense of worth. You might begin to question your value, wonder if you're doing enough, or worse, feel invisible. In Buddhism, there's a principle that speaks directly to this. Self-worth comes from within, not from external validation. While it's natural to seek appreciation, your true value does not diminish simply because others fail to recognize it. However, this doesn't mean you should tolerate being consistently overlooked or ignored. If someone repeatedly dismisses your efforts, it reflects more about their inability to see value than your lack of worth. Reflect on whether the situation aligns with the Buddhist concept of right effort. Are you expending your energy in a way that fosters harmony, growth, and balance? If your efforts are consistently met with disregard, it may be time to redirect them toward people or endeavors that appreciate and reciprocate your contributions. To address this, communicate your feelings with clarity and kindness. For instance, you might say, "I feel that my efforts aren't being acknowledged, and it's important to me to know that my contributions matter." This opens the door for dialogue while asserting your value. If the lack of appreciation persists, consider this an opportunity to practice detachment, a cornerstone of Buddhist wisdom. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means releasing the need for external validation to find peace within. Surround yourself with people who uplift you and environments where your contributions are valued. Your energy is precious, and it deserves to be honored. E6. Unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations can feel like a heavy weight pressing down on you. Whether it's a boss who piles on work without regard for your limits, a friend who demands more than you can give, or a family member who expects you to always be available, these demands can stretch you thin. Over time, you might feel exhausted, resentful, or even lost, unsure of where your boundaries lie. Buddhism teaches the importance of recognizing and respecting your own limits. The concept of right action encourages you to live in alignment with your values and capabilities, rather than bending to the will of others. When someone places unrealistic expectations on you, it's a signal that they are out of touch with your reality, or worse, that they're disregarding it. The first step is to get clear on your boundaries. What are you capable of offering without compromising your well-being? Once you've identified this, communicate it calmly but firmly. For example, if a friend constantly expects you to drop everything for them, you might say, "I care about you, but I also need to honor my own time and energy. I can't always be available on short notice." It's also essential to release any guilt for not meeting others' impossible standards. Buddhism teaches us to embrace self-compassion and understand that we cannot pour from an empty cup. By saying no to unrealistic demands, you're saying yes to your own peace and balance. If others react negatively to your boundaries, recognize that their expectations are not your responsibility. Their disappointment stems from their own attachment to an idea of you that may not align with your truth. Practicing detachment allows you to let go of their reactions while staying grounded in your own reality. By managing unrealistic expectations with clarity and compassion, you create space to focus on what truly matters. You free yourself from the endless chase to please others and instead cultivate a life rooted in balance, authenticity, and inner peace. 7. Violations of personal boundaries. Your boundaries are sacred. They define who you are, what you value, and how you wish to be treated. Yet, there are those who disregard these boundaries, stepping into your space, time, or even your core values without your consent. It could be a colleague who oversteps at work, a friend who demands more than you can give, or a family member who ignores your need for privacy. Each intrusion chips away at your sense of control and peace. In Buddhism, the practice of right conduct emphasizes living in a way that honors both yourself and others. Allowing someone to violate your boundaries disrupts this harmony and often leads to feelings of resentment, frustration, or even burnout. You cannot control the actions of others, but you can control how you respond to these actions. Start by identifying where your boundaries lie. Are there areas in your life where you feel consistently drained, disrespected, or overwhelmed? These are likely spaces where boundaries have been crossed. Once you've recognized this, assert your needs with clarity and kindness. For example, if someone consistently interrupts your personal time, you might say, "I value our relationship, but I also need space to recharge. Let's find a time to connect that works for both of us." It's crucial to remain firm, even if others push back or react negatively. Buddhism teaches the importance of detachment, not from people, but from the need to please everyone. By enforcing your boundaries, you prioritize your inner peace and create an environment where mutual respect can thrive. Remember, setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self-respect. It's a way of showing compassion for yourself while teaching others how to honor your needs. Protecting your boundaries isn't about building walls. It's about creating a space where authentic, meaningful relationships can grow. 8. Indifference or neglect. Indifference can be just as hurtful as outright hostility. When someone you care about shows a lack of empathy, fails to consider your feelings, or neglects your emotional needs, it creates a void. You might feel unseen, unheard, or even unworthy. Over time, this neglect can erode your self-esteem and leave you questioning the value of the relationship. Buddhism places great emphasis on compassion, both for oneself and for others. Experiencing indifference or neglect from someone close to you disrupts the natural flow of this compassion. While it's important to extend kindness and understanding, it's equally important to recognize when someone's behavior is causing harm to your well-being. If you find yourself in such a situation, begin by addressing it calmly. Share your feelings without blame, focusing on how the behavior affects you. For example, you might say, "I've noticed that when I share my concerns, they're often dismissed. It makes me feel unheard and unimportant. I'd like for us to work on communicating better." Sometimes people are unaware of their indifference and may respond positively to your feedback. However, if the behavior continues, it's essential to evaluate the relationship. Buddhism teaches the importance of equanimity, a state of balance and fairness. Relationships that consistently lack empathy or care may not align with this principle, and letting go of them might be necessary for your growth. Practicing detachment in this context doesn't mean abandoning the relationship with anger or resentment. Instead, it's about releasing the need for others to fulfill your emotional needs while creating space for relationships that nourish and uplift you. Above all, don't internalize someone else's neglect as a reflection of your worth. Your value is not determined by how others treat you. By prioritizing relationships built on mutual care and empathy, you create a life filled with meaningful connections and lasting peace. 9. Possessiveness or jealousy. Possessiveness and jealousy often masquerade as love or care, But beneath the surface, they are rooted in insecurity and control. When someone tries to dictate your relationships, interests, or personal freedom, it's not about affection, it's about fear and dominance. You might hear phrases like, "Why do you need to spend time with them?" Or, "If you really cared about me, you wouldn't do that." Over time, this behavior can smother your sense of independence and make you feel trapped. In Buddhism, freedom is a cornerstone of a harmonious life. The Buddha taught that attachment, whether to people, things, or control, creates suffering. When someone's possessiveness infringes on your ability to grow, explore, or connect with others, it disrupts the natural flow of trust and respect that should define a healthy relationship. The first step is to recognize possessive behavior for what it is, a projection of the other person's fears, not a reflection of your worth or actions. Acknowledge your right to maintain your individuality within any relationship. Whether it's a partner, friend, or family member, no one has the right to dictate how you live your life. Communicate your boundaries with compassion but firmness. For example, you might say, "I value our relationship, but I also need space to nurture my other connections and interests. This doesn't mean I care about you any less." This reassures the person while reinforcing your independence. If the behavior persists, it may be necessary to detach emotionally, not as a punishment, but as a way to protect your well-being. Remember, true love and friendship are grounded in freedom and trust, not in control or restriction. By asserting your right to autonomy, you not only honor yourself, but also encourage healthier dynamics in your relationships. 10. Dishonesty and lack of transparency. Few things erode trust as quickly as dishonesty. Lies, deceit, and a lack of straightforward communication create a shaky foundation in any relationship. Whether it's a partner withholding the truth, a friend spinning stories, or a colleague hiding critical information, dishonesty leaves you feeling disoriented and betrayed. In Buddhism, honesty is central to the practice of right speech, one of the Eightfold Path's guiding principles. Right speech encourages clear, truthful, and compassionate communication. When someone is dishonest, it disrupts this balance, leading to mistrust and disconnection. If you sense dishonesty in your interactions, approach the situation with mindfulness and clarity. Ask yourself, is this person's lack of transparency a one-time lapse, or is it a pattern? Everyone makes mistakes, but chronic dishonesty signals deeper issues that may not be within your power to fix. When addressing the behavior, avoid accusations and focus on expressing your feelings. For example, you might say, "When I feel like I'm not getting the full truth, it's hard for me to trust. I value honesty in our relationship and hope we can work on being more open with each other." If dishonesty continues despite your efforts to communicate, it's important to consider whether the relationship aligns with your values. Practicing detachment can help you let go of the need to control the situation or change the person. Instead, focus on surrounding yourself with individuals who prioritize honesty and transparency. Trust is a fragile yet vital element of any connection. Once broken, it's challenging to rebuild. By valuing truth and openness in your relationships, you not only create stronger bonds, but also foster an environment of respect and authenticity. Your peace of mind and emotional safety are too important to be compromised by dishonesty. Choose relationships that reflect your commitment to integrity and growth.